good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this broadcast. I'm extremely glad that you decided to join me today. It's time now for our 9 for 9 with me, Pastor Carzadean. Come on in, let's get started. Good morning. Good morning. Haven't seen you in a while. Well, I guess you're saying, well, where have you been? I'm here this morning and I just want to say welcome. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Hey, this morning we're going to talk about something that all of us are sharing right now. We're going to talk about this nasty yellow thing that's all over the place. Hey, pollen is in the air this morning. Pollen is in the air. And I don't get along with the pollen well at all. Waking up with these grocery bags under my eyes, all this tightness in my head. Oh my goodness, pollen is definitely in the air this morning. We want to begin to take these Thursdays and just have a think about it Thursday here on 9 for 9 with me, Pastor Carzadean. Want to just be able to talk to you sometimes about some of the things going on around us. And when we talk about this thing called pollen, hey, it's no joke. Just making us aware of some things that are affecting our temples, affecting our bodies, affecting our performance. Listen, pollen is in the air. Most of the pollen that we find or we see, it causes allergic reactions, and it comes from grass, trees, and weeds. If you didn't know that, let me tell you. Definitely you ought to know it's coming from the trees, most of us, but it's also coming from grass and weeds. Oh, we want those beautiful lawns, don't we? But pollen is in the air. We have a price to pay for the pollen. We have a price to pay. We pay a price for the pollen because we want the nice lawns. Oh my goodness, the trees provide us shade. We can't have our cake and eat it too. Oh my goodness, do you really understand what that means? Pollen is in the air this morning. That thing called pollen, it produces these grains and they travel by wind. So they have a vehicle to move them from this place to that place. And oh my goodness, we're in the month of March. And March is the month of winds. Amen. It's a windy month. Listen, March winds. We hear that all the time. So when you're enjoying that cool breeze, know there's a price to pay. Pollen is in the air. Oh, it feels so good out here with the wind blowing. Listen, I've got a tickle in my throat even right now. Pollen is in the air. It finds its way into our eyes and our nose. It gets into our lungs even. It can cause people who have bad allergies and who also suffer from asthma can have issues when the pollen is out. Excuse me. We think about the mask with this COVID thing and the mask up. And I'm telling you, I have really relished having my mask. Somebody made a joke on Facebook one day about seeing the people riding in their cars. Why do I see people riding in their cars and there's only them in there and they've got the mask pulled up? Hey, you don't know what the situation is. I can tell you for me, it's because pollen is in the air. Even when I'm not around anybody, I have discovered, and I was using the mask even when I'm outside in my yard, I'm on my porch working with my plants. I put those masks on because they help protect me. Pollen is in the air. Pollen is something that we need protection from. As small as the mites are, as small as the molecules are, when they come together, they come in a great way. They come in a mask. They come in a multiplicity of grains that come together and form this humongous thing that causes us issues. Well, we have to learn how to come together, you see, like the pollen does and be strong. You know, pollen holds its own. Pollen will make its appearance known. It will make itself known. If you've seen the black cars that look yellow, have you walked up on your porch and seen your footprints? So when you're doing that, then you're bringing that thing called pollen from the outside to the inside. Sometimes we're bringing some things from the outside to the inside. Sometimes some things that are bothering us come from the outside, you see, to the inside. So we've got to remember that, listen, pollen, where did it come from? Hey, it comes from the trees, the grass, and the weeds. Who made the mountains? Who made the trees? Somebody bigger than you and I. You know, Genesis 1:11-12 reminds us that God said, let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit in which is their seed, each according to its kind on earth. And it goes on to talk about the vegetation that was brought forth, the plants that were yielded, the trees bearing fruit. You see, God gave us those trees and those plants and the grass for a reason, for a purpose. Everything has a purpose, even that old sickening thing called pollen. Everything has a purpose, you see. It may not feel good to us all the time, but sometimes some things that are affecting us to make us have to change direction, to come up with a plan, to cause us to go this way and not that way. What this pollen does sometimes causes us to stay inside just a little while longer. Take a little more time in your house. Do some things around your house. Take some time with your family instead of running out the door all the time and getting into that thing called pollen. How does pollen affect our lives? It affects our lives in different ways. Some of us barely are affected. May not have the allergies, but oh my goodness, your brand new car looks like I don't know what. You just ran it through the car wash. You just took it to the guys downtown and got it detailed. But as soon as you're back, and even if you have a garage, you still have to drive out of that garage into that pollen, and it's still going to get some on there. Dirty cars, yellowed streets. Have you noticed when the rain comes down when there's pollen, that how the sludge is a sludge at the curbs? Have you really paid attention to pollen? Pollen makes itself known. Pollen makes itself known. Pollen is in the air. God has made himself known. Are you making yourself known? Are you making an impact? Pollen definitely has an impact. You're probably saying, what are you talking about this morning? I'm talking about pollen being in the air and how we can be affected in life by the very things around us, but how we can also control some of how those things affect us. Mask up, I tell you, with that pollen out there. Stay safe. Clean up some more. Rinse off your front porch. I've been having to do it. Go out there with the hose and just hose that porch off, because otherwise I'm bringing that stuff inside. And it's affecting me on the outside. Now it's affecting me on the inside. So if you want to try to get that pollen under control, you're going to have to do something about it. Clean up some of that pollen. Stay out of some of that pollen. Clean up some of that trouble. Stay out of some of that trouble. If you don't want to be affected by it in a negative way, you're going to have to do all you can to make it positive. Hey, that's it. That's our time. So I'm going to remind you that pollen is in the air. But pollen is there for a reason. Pollen was made by him who is able to keep us from falling. And so listen, when the pollen gets on your nerves and you want to just stay really positive about it, hey, you can do this right here too. Get you an herbal cup of positivity. God bless you, and we'll see you next time.